How to edit wrap text. Hello everyone. In this video I'm going to review this tutorial, which is how to edit wrap text on an object. This is based on a real use case. I've received this scanned object from a dentist I've been working with, and the use case here is they need to kind of remove the, I'm not sure the exact where it's coming from, but it's basically looks like it's a default text that is being added by the scanner, and at some point they need to remove it before printing the 3D object, and at some point they need to add other text or whatever the case is. So I have already removed the initial text. I got it with a serial number that was positioned over here, almost the exact location, exact size, and had the same look and feel. But I got this with the condition that I can use this for a tutorial with one condition. I remove the serial number because that's a reference to some customer's file. So I've already added over here my custom serial number, just replaced it, but what was over here was a set of numbers and a random text or something like that. Okay, so with that said, I have this object over here imported. The first thing I'm going to do here a few things in this tutorial, which is just as a good practice to teach what you need to do with scanned objects. So it's not necessarily all of them is really needed for this. And the first thing here is I'm going to simplify it. If you see, this object has about 365 plus 1,000 faces, and I'm going to reduce this significantly without really seeing any big difference in the object, so we can simplify it. This is not needed. The fact is I have already, as I said, already replaced the text, and I did it without simplifying the object, so and there was no problem. So everything's going to work, but it's just a good practice to simplify it, so that's why I do it now. And it makes everything speed up as well. Okay, so in order to remove this, and also later to draw over here, I need to have a profile which I'm going to use. And I can use different ways to draw a profile, but the easiest way is the way I'm going to do it now. I go with cut with plane, and I use the default plane, the top bottom plane, and I'm going to offset it by 20. So this is used to cut. So in fact, talking here about a scanned object, I have many times working with different industries, prosthetics and other stuff, and they always ask how to cut, and this is actually what they need. And if you're going to cut an object, you will have an option over here in the advanced settings, which will be to cut split object, and in split it will be an option to fill the cuts, which will basically make sure it gets filled and you don't have two separate objects and split off the bottom part. But that's not what I'm looking for now. What I'm looking for now is just to get the profile. So I'm going to turn on the copy profile option, so there's no cuts, it's just copy profile. And if I finalize, look what's happening. It gives me a new profile over here, complete profile. But the object is still selected, so I'm going to invert select to select this profile. I'm going to go again to cut with plane, and in this case I'm going to choose the default plane. I'm going to use the back and front plane, and I'm also going to customize it. So I'm going to rotate it by -50, and then I'm going to offset it by 120. So this gives me this and positioned like this. Okay, and now in advanced settings I'm going to use split object. So now this is the beauty of SelfCAD, where the same tools work over, like in other software you have to switch between like profile meshes, different tools. We can use the same thing. I use cut with profile before, cut with plane, I mean, to cut a mesh, and now we're cutting a profile with it. But the settings may often be different because they're different things. And over here, this is just this that we have for this profile, and clicking like this. So it selected one of them, the bigger piece over here. So I'm simply gonna delete the bigger piece, and I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to isolate this. So all I wanted to get this, which is an exact profile drawn around, like hugging the object, completely around the object. But the problem here is that we are dealing with a scanned object, with a very highly detailed object, and often these cuts may end up copying something that will be kind of like too small edge, or edge hanging out or something like that. So I want to clean it up. And for that, what I'm going to do is first, I want to make sure this is a polygon, because then I have more options in SelfCAD. So once this is a polygon, so what I did now is just simply drawing. Go to 3D Sketch, the default, which is a line, and simply draw a line connecting this. And now I close this. Now I can go to Geometry Clean and use this option, remove inner edges and remove loose edges. Now I also have on remove duplicates, why not? But that's actually, there's no duplicates, but this may be issues. If I wouldn't have closed this and I use these, it may remove the entire shape, because they're all considered a loose edge. Loose edge meaning kind of like hanging edges. So this is basically what I need here. So you can see it removed 5 vertices and 7 edges. But as I said, I don't need this line, so I'm going to remove back the line. I simply select this line and delete them. So now we have this. But once I turn on the edge mode, you can see how detailed this is and how many, small edges this has. And this is simply not needed. So I'm going to go back to the simplify. Again, the same thing with SelfCAD, the same tool works and everything. So we simplified before the mesh, but now I'm going to simplify again this profile because there's no need for this. And look, the visual doesn't change, but it reduced the vertice count by a lot. So it simplified it, make sure it's going to be better. And it's just for added precaution, does not really need it, but why not? So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add thickness. I need to make this into a polygon. Now, if I would have filled this, extruded it or used fill polygons while it's closed, it will fill the entire thing. But I don't want, I want to fill just the borders. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to make it -10 to do this. Now, the positive and negative is hard to see. It's just depending on how the shape is created, and it goes based on the normal. So you can just see which direction it is. And I've already tested negative. In this case, we'll push it outside. And I make it 10 to make sure it covers the entire text. It's not needed 10. I could go with less. 5 was too little, and 10 is too much. But it doesn't matter because I'm going to remove this later. It's just a temporary object. So now once this is done, I'm going to go to extrusion. And the same idea over here. Negative is, in this case, going down. So I'm making it -20 because the cut was 20. So -20 means it covers the entire object. Okay, so now that we have that, I simply want to inspect the object to turn on the edge mode. Now this object looks perfect. I don't see anything, but in many cases when you bend something, we create a complex mesh out of a complex profile, it may end up being non-manifold. For example, these edges here, these faces are quite close to each other, and if you bend it a little bit more, they may start intersecting. So I'm just doing it here as a best practice, but it's actually not needed. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do magic fix and make sure this is manifold. So why do I need it to be manifold? Because later I'm going to use stitch and scoop. They need to have objects manifold, and in case this is not, there will be a problem. So magic fix cleans it up. The problem with magic fix is, look what it did. It made this into 78,000 faces. It makes it so detailed. So I'm going to go again to my simplify, and I'm going to simplify this again, and we reduce this to just 7,000 faces, and now we know this is manifold. Again, this is just an extra precaution. It may be needed for other use cases, just to show you best practice. Okay, so now I'm turning on the edge mode, off edge mode. I'm selecting this profile. So now I'm going to use a stitch and scoop. Now the thing is, if you have seen my other videos, you know that I really love having different colors before doing stitch and scoop because it maintains the color, and that's very good when you model objects with parts and so on. But over here, I just want to clean up the object, and I don't want it to be having a different color. So what I'm going to do is change the color of the object, make sure they have the same color. To do that is I go to the picker, and once I turn on the picker, it gives me this eyedropper. So I'm simply going to click here to make sure it copies the same color. Now, it copied the exact same color, but it doesn't look the same. And the reason is because one is selected, so it has also the selection color. The second one is not selected yet, so it looks different. But if you see now, I'm going to select this, they're exact same color. And now what I do here is I'm simply going to go to stitch and scoop. I'm going to remove this shape over here, the shape that we just added. And now let's inspect this object. Let's take a look. This is brilliant. This is beautiful. Look at this. We had an object, there was text over here with a different color inside, if you remember. And sticking out, and it's completely removed and cleaned up 100%. You would never notice there was some text over here. No indentation, no nothing. And this is because we did this with the cut with profile approach, where this mesh, these profiles are just hugging the mesh perfectly fine. And this, even we use this is a good testament also to the fact of simplify didn't change anything. So it kept the same thing wrapping despite the fact it simplified it a lot. Same with magic fix. Everything still kept it fine. And yeah, maybe some added steps that we did, but it's good to prove this because many times you need it. And look how good it maintained everything. It's cleaned up. Okay, so now we've done with cleaning up the mesh. Now the job would be to add new text. So to do that, what are we going to do? I'm going to not isolate. What am I doing here? It's hiding. So I'm hiding away this mesh, and I'm going to have only this. So now I'm going to do here a few interesting operations. So what happened here is I need to explain something. If I go now to polygon mode or face mode, select on the top of the cube and select this, it will select the entire thing because this is one polygon. I actually want to delete part over here. The entire outside part that I've added to make the mesh that we just did, needs to be removed. So I'm gonna go to edge mode. If I go to edge mode, I can start selecting all of these edges, and this would be, you know, painstaking. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna select some corners over here, just a little bit here, and delete them. So once I delete them, I now have two different paths. They're not really polygons, they're paths. But if I turn on now polygon mode or face mode, it's the same thing, there's no difference here. I can select this, will select the entire path. And now this path breaks over here, so that's where the selection stops. So I can delete this. So what I did here is basically we just got back the initial profile. I could have made a copy first before adding the details that I did before, the add thickness, and I could have saved the steps. But yeah, there's another way of teaching this, so why not doing it this way? Okay, so now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna add thickness again, but now last time we added thickness, we used the option add connection, which is the default option in order to make this a polygon. Now I don't want to add connection. I want to do this. So what are the goal what I'm doing over here? And I'm adding a number of 2. So I'm going to explain what the goal is. So what I do here is I want my text that I'm going to position along this profile to go inside into the object. This profile that you know was, I've seen before, is hugging the object. It doesn't go in anything. And if I position text outside, it's not what I want. I wanted the text to go inside. So I could have moved this profile a little bit, but it's really difficult to get a direction where to move it. If I go to the move tool, there is an option of custom directions, but I would have a difficulty drawing an exact direction. I would have needed to draw a line like this and make sure it's correct and exact. So this gives me much better way, much easier. And what I need to do now here is I'm simply going to delete, select now again the outside profile and delete it. So all we did is we replaced the original profile with something that is by 2 centimeters pushed in. So meaning is it will go in by 2 into the mesh. Okay, so now we have the correct profile. I'm going to draw a text, and I'm going to type in here, over here we need to type in the value, which is add a new serial number. Okay. And you have to be careful here every space. I tried it before and I added like a space and the tutorial wouldn't let me go because this text adds, like you can add spaces and something like that and it wouldn't work. So you need to add exactly. And this also means while you are drawing, if you want to have some text with more spaced out, you could just add a space between each text and play with these type of stuff. Okay, so another thing here is I'm going to wrap this around, and I've already figured out that in order to make this work, I need to rotate this by 180 degree. So it will wrap it kind of the opposite way around. That's just testing it on this based on the position of the profile. That's how it works. Okay, so I'm turning off my face mode still from before, and I'm turning on selecting this profile. So I've selected the text, which you can see it from this side. It says add new serial, a new serial number, and here's the profile. And I'm going to go to follow path. I'm going to use the wrap option, and the wrap option simply wraps it around. Add a new serial number. Now I have made this text approximately the same length as this, so it wraps it nicely. If you have different sizes, you can use the repeat option. The repeat option will make sure it keeps exact size, and then it starts copying more. And some other option that's coming actually here, but for now this is perfect. I don't need anything, and I got this. So I'm gonna isolate this, which means hides away the other mesh, and I'm gonna visualize the initial mesh. But what I want to do now here is I actually want to have now a different color. So you can always change back the color, but it's hard to change it later to select. So I love, as I said before, I love doing different colors when I do stitch and scoop. So now what I'm going to do here is, again, as an extra precaution, because sometimes if you have a detailed text and bending it using follow path to bend it around a complex profile may make this non-manifold. I don't know if that's the case, but as an extra precaution, I'm going to use again magic fix and then simplify, the same thing as I did before in the profile, and simplifying this again, and we have this mesh now. Okay, so now I'm selecting both objects and I'm going to go to stitch and scoop. In this case, instead of doing, I could have done union, like making them stick out the same it was originally and the same we started this tutorial with, which had them stick out. But now for, you know, just for a change, I'm actually going to do to cut them in, actually going to make them cut in. And here we go, we are done with the tutorial. So look how beautiful this looks like. We had here a different text, we completely replaced it, there's no sign of the old one, and this is completely wrapped around, which is brilliant. Okay, I hope this you liked it. I hope this was helpful, and maybe doing soon some other tutorials, show for example how to close this gap and other stuff. So look forward for my other videos tutorials. Thanks for watching and have a great day. Bye.